Yes, welcome everybody down to what I hope is going to be a series in podcasts. Obviously talking about the mighty Preston North End. So welcome everybody down to the Real North Ender podcast with me, Darren Watson, aka the Real North Ender. So let's get into it. A lot of things to talk about in this podcast today. Obviously going through the dramatic season we've just had, what to expect in the summer, but also with the key to success for Preston North End. Now, I obviously did a video on this on my socials, and I'll go into that in detail shortly, and also what to expect for the coming season as well. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, we're going to start off with obviously the beginning of the season, beginning of the last season just gone. Obviously, Ryan Lowe, our manager at the time, was in charge. And the first game was at home against Sheffield United. Now, we all know how that game went. Obviously, ended up losing that game, coming in the back of, obviously, defeats from the previous season before. And obviously, now Ryan Lowe, the day after, we see that Ryan Lowe has left the club. Obviously, we don't know if he was sacked or whether he was let go at that time. Now, I actually had a meeting with our club chairman, Peter Risdale. Went to the Preston North End training ground in Exton, and this was one of the topics that I mentioned to him about Ryan Lowe's departure. You know, was he sacked or did he leave off his own accord? Now, what Peter Risdale told me was that the day after the obviously the defeat to Sheffield United, the next training session they had at Exton, they brought them all. He had a meeting with Peter Risdale and said, "Look, you know, I think it's time for me to leave." He said that he obviously can't take the club further, and also he said it's affecting his family life at home as well. So, from what I was told by our club chairman, Peter Risdale, that it was Ryan Lowe who asked to leave Preston North End. There's lots of rumours circulating about that he was sacked. Obviously, a lot of people say that he was, and it's obviously a lie that he went off his own back. But no, obviously, what I've been told, whether again you believe that yourself or not, it's another thing. But yeah, Ryan Lowe left, and there was a bit of a period of time at Preston North End where we thought, what is going to happen? Things are going to, where is the club going to go? Essentially, now we're a bit of at a point where we're out with that manager. Who's going to manage us? So obviously, the time being, got taken over. But then the club was looking about for a new manager, and a lot of people probably thought Paul Heckingbottom would have come into the job, but I wasn't expecting Paul Heckingbottom to get the job at all. I was quite surprised, if I'm being perfectly honest. But again, North End always amazes me with everything that they do. But Paul Heckingbottom coming off obviously being let go as Sheffield United manager and that run of the Premier League. Bit exciting to get a manager that's got the Premier League experience and obviously been up there, got a team promoted and had a season with a Premier League team. I was looking forward to it as well, especially with the appointment of his second in the command, Stuart McCall, obviously well known in football as well, and obviously he's right-hand man for everything, and he likes to bring him along wherever he goes. Again, what we were really expecting? Obviously, we were expecting. I think all North End fans were expecting a bit of a turnaround. And really we did. Our home record was really good at one point. I think it was after Christmas. We went, I think, was it 12 or maybe like a 10 or 12 home games without a loss. But our away record was shocking. Absolutely shocking. I think that the last home game that I went on, which was Norwich away, I think that's the last time that we actually won an away game. I think it was. That's how difficult we've obviously found it on the road, and it's something we definitely need to improve on next season is our away record, definitely. But we've had downs obviously, very much lows. We've had highs as well, and obviously our FA Cup run was something to be quite proud of. I think as North End fans, very very proud of. Looking at all the things that we've done, obviously the beating Burnley as well, absolutely thrashing of Burnley, 3-0. They can say what they want about putting a second team out, but at the end of the day, it's their FA Cup 5th round. For a place in the quarterfinals was at stake there then. So we beat them. When we beat them, we did. and obviously going on then to play Aston Villa in the quarterfinals. And obviously the young, P&E fan inside of me obviously thought we were going to smash Aston Villa and go through to the semi-finals of the FA Cup. But the old head on me here thought, yeah, maybe not. But I had every hope in that game. We put out a really good display. And again, it just shows what we can do if we, all get together at Deepdale. It's a sellout, we sell out the crowd. We put on a decent display. And it was really, really good. And so the people that were there would know how much of an atmosphere we put on. But again, Aston Villa were just a bit too much for us, weren't they? Obviously, they've got the firepower, playing in Champions League football. They had a ridiculous amount of quality on the bench as well. I think at one point they were, bringing on, obviously we started with Marcus Rashford. He's obviously, he's a good player. You can't say anything about Marcus Rashford. He's been around the block. Knows what he's doing, and obviously it's not working for him at United, and he's having a good spell at Aston Villa. But yeah, obviously would like to have scored in that game. I think we should have deserved to score, but obviously with the injury to Freddie Woodman, I think that's where it all started really. Obviously we found out the night before, or there was rumours of that Freddie Woodman was injured before that game, and then we come to the game on the day, and it is confirmed that Freddie Woodman is out for the rest of the season. And obviously at that time then we all thought we'll probably never play for Preston North End again, which was obviously I'll come on to the players a bit later on in this podcast. But yeah, what do you expect when you put number 2 has not played many first team football, in goal. But I wish Di Cornell all the best as well. Obviously we think obviously I think he's staying as well throughout the next season as our number 2. We'll have to wait and see who we bring in the summer. But he made some fantastic saves. But again, I think it just shows that quality when you've got a quality keeper in goal playing for you, your number 1 keeper. You can almost see that as well. It makes the team stronger. It strengthens the team in the back line. And I just think at times that we lack that. We needed that first team experience. There's nothing against Di Cornell. He's been at Preston now. When he's been called upon, he's always been remained professional. But again, it's just that lacking that quality and that edge and that first team experience, I think that we really needed. I think we did miss Freddie Woodman, no matter what people might say about him. We did miss him. Obviously, he can make some fantastic saves. His reactions are really, really good. But again, we can question sometimes his commanding of his area and coming out for crosses and stuff. We can always question that. We can question that with every keeper, really. But again, we did lack that quality. And obviously, we're going to now looking towards the the summer and who we're going to bring in. And obviously, then towards the end of the season, I want to start off by saying that I thought it was very toxic towards the end in the stands. Obviously, I sit in the town end with my dad, and around us it was awful. The players were getting slated, rightly so, because the team wasn't performing. But shouting for the owners to sell the club and get out of the club, and the club chairman Peter Risdale to leave. Personally, I don't think that was needed. I know that many North End fans that were listening to this now will probably disagree with me and say how they want obviously to progress, that they need change. Yes, change is needed, but personally, my own opinion, I know I might get slated for this, but I don't think that getting rid of Peter Risdale is the answer. Is the answer to this? I think there's many other multiple answers to that question that hopefully we'll go through in this. But I don't think that was the one. I don't think that was the right answer. And also booing as well. I'm not all for booing your players, because it doesn't give any athlete any good, booing your own players at all. We've seen it multiple times in football, and obviously at Deepdale before, we've seen it time and time again, haven't we? We saw it when Ryan Lowe obviously lost that game at Sheffield United and he got booed out the place as well. And we saw booing again towards the end of the season at home as well, especially. But again, the players weren't performing. What was the answer to all this? Why weren't they performing? And you got to put it down too that obviously there was injuries in the team as well. And that's one of them. We had multiple injuries from players that experienced players that were out, and obviously we just couldn't really, show that quality within the team because they weren't there. They weren't available for us. Again, Could you put it down to the tactics that Paul Heckingbottom brought in? Obviously, he had his players that he brought in. Well, he was given obviously players throughout the season. Obviously, Ryan Law wanted players that he got in, and we got some players on loan as well. But again, were the players that he brought in at the time, was the tactics right for that player? Obviously, he wants to play the style of play that he wants to play, But again, there's multiple things, and I just think that we're coming to a time now at Deepdale where we've got an ageing squad as well, and in the summer, obviously we're going to summer expectations in a bit, but we all know who's been released, and we all know who's obviously been retained as well. Now, I think that now going forward, which we'll go on to in a bit, but I think we need to look at youth and youth experience at Deepdale. I think we need to get young, hungry players in that want to play football, that want to push on and progress and show that they are worthy of, getting to a playoff place or even better, the Premier League. How many loan transfers have we had over the past where players have been absolutely amazing? All I have to talk about is Alvaro Fernandez, now playing in Benfica, but Real Madrid are sniffing around at him, and the reports are strongly that he's going to be ending up at Real Madrid, playing first team football at Real Madrid, and then we can all say that he learnt his craft at Deepdale, can't we? But yeah, again, with the addition of Ken Kessler-Hayden as well, how well did he do in that season we had? Player of the season at Deepdale, again, another loan player. Season before that, Liam Miller as well. How well did he look? And he came on and he scored some fantastic goals and actually won games for us as well. I remember the Plymouth away game as well. Obviously, we had an injury. He came on, scored, won the game 1-0. But obviously, we had an injury at Hull. And obviously, I hope for the best for him for the coming seasons as well, because he's another cracking player who I think's got massive, massive potential. But again, we've had so many good loan players over the years. I can't count. Goalkeepers, midfielders, defenders, forwards. If we've gone out and splashed the cash and thought, you know what, you've had a good season, we want to bring this player in. We want to show that you can play first team football. We want to give you that opportunity. Maybe you're not getting first team football at your parent club, but we're going to splash the cash a little bit, and we'll build this team of players that have done well and obviously proven to that championship level that they can play football and play football well. But that's not the North End way, is it? And we all know that. But again, let's move on now. Let's move on to obviously what expected in the summer and our summer expectations. Obviously, we all seen the player out, seen the retained list and the player out. We all know who's going. Obviously, first thing that I want to really touch on is obviously the Keane Best situation. This lad put a post on his Instagram page about him not finding out through Instagram that he's been let go, and obviously to be taken down an hour later. Now we all know that obviously Sky News got the wind of it, TalkSport and all the sports outlets and everybody on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, everything. Everybody was talking about it, no matter what club you supported, and it really put North End in bad light. Really, it can be quite detrimental to a club. Listening to all these accusations like that, and then obviously it picks up traction online. News outlets get it, which it did as well. And obviously to be taken down straight away, you almost can guarantee that wasn't the case, was it? That he definitely knew that he was going at the end of the season. Obviously had a talk about which players are being retained, which players are being released, and then obviously that list then was released to the public. But again, you hear rumours of his attitude. Obviously, when it went on loan to the Irish League, obviously he was sent back there, and his attitude wasn't great over there. Couldn't get any first game experience because of his attitude and the way he's performing. And then he expects to come back to a championship club, a league below the Premiership, and then expect to play, football with that attitude. It's not going to wash. I actually at one time wanted, these youth players that we've had to succeed and come forward and through in the team. But listening to all the same people talking about how his attitude was, horrendous, as a footballer, then a young footballer as well, it's bad for yourself. Because now you've obviously put the club in the bad light. Other clubs are going to listen to this. Other clubs are going to listen to you. And then obviously when you find another club, it's not going to look good for you. But again, I wish everybody the best that's obviously left Deepdale and not obviously being retained. Obviously, Patrick Bauer as well, another player that I was, I really, really liked when he played for us. I thought he was a strong, solid defender. Always reliable when called upon. But again, obviously, he will not be playing a Preston North End again next season, and I wish him all the best as well. Another player, Freddie Woodman, as we were just talking about, goalkeepers before. Freddie Woodman, obviously left now, been released by the club and obviously free to go wherever he wants. Rumours are that he's actually been linked with Manchester United a couple of times. Now, that one really, really surprises me. Obviously, I don't think he's going there for first team football. I really don't. So is he just going there for maybe second, well, won't even be second, maybe he's the third choice keeper, reserve keeper. Again, is it that for the money? Obviously, it looks like it as well, and, if I was a keeper these days, and I was offered a big, massive fee to sit on my backside, I know which one I'd rather do, But again, obviously, we've got a massive hole now in our squad list. And the question is, who are we going to bring in? We definitely need 8 to 10 players now in the summer. Paul Heckingbottom has got a massive, massive job on his hands. Obviously, we've just released not released, but we've actually got news of one signing confirmed. Jordan Thompson from Stoke City. Now, obviously, left-footed midfielder that can play at left back if needed as well, which is also good for North End because we do need some a decent left and the right back as well, especially wing backs. We're dying out for wing backs as well. But again, is it just a light flat replacement for Ryan Ledson, another player who's left? Ryan Ledson always called upon, and always done well. And again, another player that I wish well. But again, maybe just that experience and his style of play, obviously not playing in for the style that Paul Heckingbottom wants. He was very much a Ryan Lowe player. Under Ryan Lowe, I know that he loved him, and I wouldn't be surprised if he links back up with him again at Wigan for the coming season. That's one to watch out for, and a prediction from me right there. But again, I think this obviously signing maybe about a light flat replacement to Ledson. Will he play? Obviously, I know he's an international. Obviously, plays with Ali McCann as internationals. But you got to question it. If Stoke let him off on a free, what is there that obviously Paul Heckingbottom's seeing that obviously Stoke isn't seeing? Obviously, must see the experience in him. You can obviously argue that. But again, it's a strange one to me. And I think he's 28 years old, I believe. But, again, a couple of seasons, 28, 29, you're going on to 30. No, I can't talk. I'm pushing 31 this year. But again, for a football player nowadays, it's, you'll say you're getting on a bit, I think is the correct terminology. But, I'm not Paul Heckingbottom, and I don't deal with the P&E purse strings and have all the, the funds to go out and buy players. That's obviously the club's job. I can only give my thoughts on that. But again, is it a light flat replacement for Ryan Ledson? What are your thoughts on that? Personally, myself, obviously, a lot of people say he's not even got a white shirt on yet. Let him get, into training. Let's see what, he can do in pre-season and give him a pre-season. But, yeah, that is true. The player hasn't got a Preston shirt on yet. Let's see what he can do. Fair enough. But a lot of Stoke, mixed reaction from Stoke fans with him, saying that, they were not too, bothered about him going. They're not, they're wishing well, but he wasn't he gave his 100%, but he was not obviously the right player for Stoke. But we will see. We will see in the summer, obviously in pre-season as well, what Paul Heckingbottom obviously sees in him, and obviously whoever else we bring in to the team. Obviously, there is rumours as well that we've obviously got a goalkeeper signed as well. Obviously, we've had him before here at Deepdale. I think you all know who I'm talking about. Daniel Iverson, who plays for Leicester City. Obviously, he's their reserve keeper for Leicester. Now, obviously, we can't confirm that because Leicester have still got a game to play. I do think that it's pretty much been all been confirmed. I think that he's been confirmed for a while now, and talks have been ongoing, throughout obviously the season when our keeper was injured. But again, we have to wait now until end of the Premier League season to confirm it, and I think that we will get Daniel Iverson as well back at Deepdale. Obviously played for us on loan before, and I think he'll be our number one keeper for going into the season, which is exciting. Because if we get the Daniel Iverson of old, then we've got an absolute bargain on a free. Let me tell you, an absolute bargain. Free transfer for a keeper of that quality, yeah, I'll take that all day. I think P&E there have done an absolute brilliant bit of transfer work there, signing him up on the free. But again, first team experience is something you've got to question. He did play from some first team first team football with Leicester when they had injuries as well, but not enough. He's probably played them out of first team football as our second choice keeper, Dai Cornell, has. Only a couple of games. But if he's hungry and he's itching to play, then and wants to prove himself again, then yeah, if we get Daniel Iverson of old, we've definitely got a good quality signing on our hands there. Really, really good. And I'm actually looking forward to seeing that confirmed, obviously, at the next week, I think, when all the Premier League last game of the season. We'll look forward to that. Now, another question. Will we miss Emile Reece? Now, obviously, Emile Reece, another player that has gone on a free, and he'll be joining whatever club that obviously he wants to, and whichever club wants his services as well. Now, will we miss his goals? Now, that is the question from every Preston North End fan. Now, we can, a lot of Preston fans will say that he did, his attitude on the pitch wasn't that great. But again, he scored goals, and that's what you need. And are we going to find another championship level striker that can score as many goals as Emile Reece did? Now, will we live to regret that? And will we miss not actually offering him another contract? That is one question for everybody here listening. Will we miss Emile Reece? Will his goals be proven, a thing that we need to obviously have? Because obviously, at the moment, we've only got Osmaic. Again, we don't know what's happening with his, obviously the FA charges against him. Again, I think he's obviously, innocent in all charges. But again, it's they're dragging the heels now on this, aren't they? And I wish they'd just get it over and done with. But again, Osmaic is coming into his own. And I do feel that he will become, a top quality striker here at North End. We can see that as well. His hold up play, strength, where he bullies players off the ball. He's a brilliant, brilliant player, and obviously, North End's most expensive player, over £2.5 million. Yes, I think we will miss Emile Reece. I think for the goals, I think his attitude again. Yes, I believe that he was a bit of a, bit of a teenager when he didn't get the ball, complained a lot. His attitude sometimes didn't track back. And when he did, he always committed fouls and, in stupid positions as well. And you could say sometimes his passing in the final third wasn't all there, but he could score goals. He could go up at the end of the crosses and, score headers, absolutely just bang goals in. He was a championship striker. And I think that we will miss his services, and I think we'll miss his goals. And wherever he's going to go, whether that's the championship again, or I think he thinks to himself he can play at a higher level. Wherever he goes, again, he's going to score goals. He is, and I think we will miss his goals. Will we miss the player? That's arguable, but will we miss the goals? Yes, 100%. I think every North End fan will be in agreement that we will miss the goals that obviously Emile Reece scores for your club, and obviously did for Preston North End. Now, I want to move on to obviously Peter Ridsdale's comments that he made on an interview with BBC Radio Lancashire. Now, it was on about, obviously, the recruitment for Preston North End, that the players that we get in now are the players that Paul Heckingbottom, the manager, wants. So we've already confirmed one player. We've already confirmed that we've got, Jordan Thompson in from Stoke City. Again, that's one player. So Paul Heckingbottom wants him. So that's one. Now, the other 8 and 9, we're definitely going to need a new keeper, which I think has all been confirmed. We're going to need another striker, a couple of midfielders. Now, we know that North End don't have this budget and don't like spending money on players. So we know that we're going to have about two, maybe three loans out of them 10, maybe even four players. Now, if we can get any other, players in on loan like we did with the Ken Kessler-Hayden, a brilliant player, or even getting his services back again, then I think Preston have done really well. But again, Preston's player recruitment, I think it's a strange one. I think it's something that we do need to look at. We don't like paying money for big players, but when we do, they don't seem to really work out, do they? I'm not slating obviously Osmajic deal. I think he's obviously going to come into his own, he's going to score goals, but we can just look at the Jeppe Ockels deal as well. Obviously he's on loan now, and again he's not really doing that well, I would say. Obviously, if they want him, I think that we should sell and get money back on him, because we need to obviously retain some money and obviously spend it in the areas that we need to obviously strengthen in, and we need to be wise with it. I think Paul Heckingbottom is wise. I think he knows which players that he wants. I think him and Stuart McCall have sat down with a list of players, and it'll go to obviously the board and say, look, we'll obviously make contacts, we'll talk, but you do the rest. And obviously, if we're getting the money there, the money here, and talking to agents, etc. I think the player recruitment needs to be looked at, because I think that our owners need to take a bit of accountability for it. So I'm not slating the owners here. I think the Hemmings family, without them, I don't know where Preston North End would be. And I think every North End fan, true North End fan, will probably agree with me on that. That we would be in a very, very scary place if it wasn't for them. Now, but I think one thing that I would say, one criticism is that we know you're not millionaires, you're billionaires. And I think that by spending a bit of money, Preston can achieve something. This team can achieve something. It's like with every team. You spend the cash, you're gonna, you spend big money, you're gonna win big prizes. You don't spend any money, you're not gonna win anything. It's like betting. If you put tiny, tiny bits of money in, you're only gonna win tiny bits back. And we all know this. But we need to obviously go out and we need to show our strength, show everything. We need to go, look, we are serious about a promotion push. We're serious about wanting to play at the highest level. We're going to go out and we're going to go out and get these players. We're going to get this player, that player, this player. And we're going to put on a performance next season and we're going to go for it. And if we get into the top six, but we miss out on playoffs, then we can say, look, we've had a go at it. That's what I want. I want Preston North End to spend the money. I want Preston North End to have a go at it, because I don't want to be looking back in another 30 years of supporting Preston North End when I'm 16, still on that town end, with grey hair, stressed as ever, and we're still not done anything. We've still not spent money. We still haven't got, new owners or what everyone wants, a new chairman, or anything. I just want to be in a position in how many years' time to say, yeah, we had a go. And I'm proud of the team for having a go. Because I do feel like, we've almost nearly pushed that, boundary, and we've almost been there. Look at the teams that we've had in the past, the team of 2005, where we got into the playoff final and obviously missed out against West Ham. We beat West Ham 3 times that season, home, away, and once in the cup. Or I think it might be even before, But again, we've almost done it. But again, almost doesn't get you into the Premiership, does it? Winning does. And there's no prize for second place in football. You either a win. History only remembers the winners. All you've got to look at is the Premier League at the moment. Liverpool win the Premier League and Arsenal coming second again. There's no prize for second best. And I want North End to go out and attract these players, bring them in, and let's have a season where we have an actual goal for it, where we spend the money, spend the cash, and we go for it. Because at the moment in time, we're in this stagnant period where, yeah, we'll get this loan player from there, we'll get this loan player from there. We do all right. We don't do anything, we either finish mid-table, or just like this season again, we nearly got relegated. Again, we can't have another season like that again. And I hope that this season just gone was a wake-up call for all the club, from the board to everyone who works there, to the chairman, to the owner, to say that this can't happen again, And how hard, if we got relegated, I can't stress how hard it would have been to actually get back up to the Championship. You know, people thinking, yeah, but we've got a decent squad. We would have gone up straight away. No, we wouldn't have. It would have been a hard slog, and we would have struggled to get back up to the Championship. Just look what happened last time we went down to League One. It wasn't that easy, but we did it. No, we did it, but it wasn't easy. So I just want North End just to have a go, you know, just to have a real good go at it all. You know, which leads me on to a series of videos that I've done on my socials. Now, if you aren't following me and you're watching this, obviously you're listening to the Real North Ender podcast. But I do go by, obviously, the handle online as the Real North Ender. And you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, now known as X, and obviously Instagram as well, and TikTok. And you can find me as the Real North Ender. And I've done a series of videos about what is the key to success for Preston North End. Now, what I wanted to do, I want to play a little game with you all now. I wanted to pretend you are a billionaire. You've got money coming out of every orifice and you're looking for a football club. In front of you, you've got a couple of envelopes. You've got, for example, Liverpool Football Club, who are looking for new owners, and you've got Preston North End, who are also looking for new owners. Now, you sit down and read through everything. Now, you read Liverpool, and you see Champions of England, Champions League football next season, XYZ, this much money to, obviously, you can put money in, how much money you want to spend, you know, good following, home and away, fans, yeah, good fans as well, atmosphere at home games, you know, really good atmosphere, and then look at Preston North End. So, Championship football, struggling Championship, you know, need a lot of money putting in, you know, you can almost see where I'm going with this, can't you? Yes, you know, the project would be Preston North End, but to any billionaire owner, it's attractiveness. Now, I've done this video where I explain the attractiveness of football clubs. Now, you're obviously going to go for Liverpool. You know, I don't know what don't care what you say. You think you're obviously, you know, oh yeah, but you want to just have a go at doing it. Put your money into Preston North End. You can get them up the league. It's going to be a hard slog and a lot of money for a billionaire owner to come in, put money in, and then go up. Now you can argue for that example. Say, well, Wrexham have done that. You know, Wrexham have got the Hollywood owners. You know, the millionaires, the multi-millionaires. You know, and obviously they're putting money in and they're getting somewhere. They're in the Championship this season, yes, and I understand that, and that is the valid argument there. But again, it's just the attractiveness. Now, if I'm a billionaire owner, I want to be watching my team playing in Champions League football. I want to see them compete at the highest level. I want them to have that title as champions of obviously the country that they represent. You know, and you would do as well, wouldn't you? You put your money in Liverpool or anyone who's obviously, you know, winning the league, or, you know, you put your money in there. The attractiveness is there. You know, you attract big stars, you know, to the football club. It's just, and it's sad. It's a sad reality of football. It's the way that football is going now, and it's not like there's a shortage of owners, you know, in within football looking to buy a football club. I just don't think that Preston North End have actually gone out and looked properly. They're saying that, you know, when the right owner comes who will look after the club properly, you know, the club will sell. And I do believe that. I do believe that the Hemmings family will sell when the right owner comes in. And then by the right owner, I mean the person who's obviously going to look at, you know, look after the club, actually put money in, and not just, you know, leave the club to his own devices. You just like a bit of a toy to him. You know, we want somebody who is fully committed to this football club. But again, it goes back to all that attractiveness. And I don't think Preston North End is that attractive at the moment to anybody. But again, we could look at other avenues, you know, and tap into other avenues and other sources of revenue, and obviously bring that attractiveness to us. Now, another example is we have a Preston North End supporter who is an ex-WWE wrestler, Stu Bennett. Used to go by the name of Wade Barrett. He's a massive, massive Preston North End fan, and you'll see him sometimes do lots of stuff for the North End on the socials. Now, he works for a multi-billion-pound wrestling organisation that is one of the most well-known organisations in the world, I'd say. Everyone knows wrestling, everyone knows WWE, and obviously they've got a partnership now with the UFC. Yeah, he's got the, you know, contacts over in America. We could be utilising the WWE. You know, we could be going over there and trying to bring maybe some of the superstars, some of the wrestlers over to Preston, bring the attractiveness over, maybe get a shirt sponsor or a sleeve sponsor patch, just something. Bring the big stars over to Deepdale and make it attractive. Maybe host a show at Deepdale. You know, this person's got the ins within a multi-billion-pound organisation, and I feel like we're just not going we're not going about this the right way. But again, there's many different revenues we can go down, and again, it's that attractiveness. Once you bring in the attention and the attractiveness to something, people will invest and create a hype about things. And at the moment, the hype's not there, and we need to obviously bring the hype in and the attractiveness, and then with that, we will see growth, within our football club, and we all want growth. We all want to be there at the end of the day in the Premiership. Me and you both, anyone who's listening to this. We want to be standing there, getting promoted to the Premier League, standing there with our chests out, shoulders back, head up, saying, yeah, it was hard slog, but we've made it. We've made it into the Premiership, and we can be proud of all the times we've been away watching this team, all the times of our performances that are dire, that we've nearly got relegated, going into League One, having to travel here and there in League One and getting, told by, that other team up M55 how, we get battered everywhere we go and stuff, we can stand there and just say, we've done it. We've made it. Our history as well should be attractive enough. Inaugural league, the winners of the first ever league, Invincibles, our history of just this club itself. Why aren't we just selling this, mixing it up into a big pot and selling it to somebody? This is the type of things that we need to do. And it all goes back again, our youth and our youth academy and our potential, the academy at North End as well. I simply think we don't have a good structure at the baseline to progress forward. Now, we need to look at that within ourselves. Now, is it because of the money issue? Personally, yes. But there are people out there now that obviously, and I know some North End fans as well that work in the youth development, not at Preston North End, but in other places, that know youth players that are signed for nothing, signed for a three and been sold for millions of pounds. Now, this is the type of thing we need to be attracting. The youth football is something that we definitely need to be tapping into. Because if they're good enough and they play well for Preston North End, yeah, we've got ourselves a really good star that's cost us nothing. But if it becomes a big star and then we can sell him on for massive money and also get a sell-on clause on top of that sale as well, absolutely brilliant. We've done amazing. But again, there's nothing there within North End. That structure isn't there. It's like we have youth players, they hit a ceiling where they're on the bench and, we put a post up saying, oh yeah, this person makes the squad today. But it's never on the pitch. They've warmed up for 5-10 minutes of the whole 90, and then they've got clapped by the fans. The fans want to see him come on, but they never come on. Is it down to them not being good enough? Is it down to not having good enough players? And I do think we do. I think the Mwene brothers as well. I think they're cracking players, and I think if we don't utilise them, they're going to go, and we're going to regret it. Felipe Rodriguez Gentile as well. I want to see him play football. Let the lad play. He's another cracking player that I think has got the potential to play at the highest level. But again, they're going to hit this glass ceiling where they can't progress through into the first team. I think we're going to live to regret it, or we're going to hinder the performance and hinder their career because we're not letting them progress. Let them go out on loan. Let them go out on loan if we want to keep them. That is the only way forward. If we aren't going to play them, what's the point of having them on the bench? And just playing in the youth team games. They're not going to gain experience playing at a youth level. We need them to go out and play at the first team professional level to progress their career, essentially. And that just leads me on that, what will Preston North End look like in 5 years' time? It's a difficult question. Because if we do spend the cash, I think Preston North End will have, we will, be pushing for playoffs, maybe even, a playoff final in 5 years' time if we spend the cash this transfer window. We need to start now. There isn't, oh yeah, well, we'll see what players we're getting, we'll start next season. But we saw what happened at the end of last season, and it's scary, and it scares me, and I don't want that to happen again. So we need to spend the money now. I think in 5 years' time, if we get obviously the right player recruitment in this window, I think that we could. I genuinely, in my heart, I think that we could get playoffs. I think we definitely could get up there. I'm not saying that we'll get into the Premier League. I'm not saying that at all. Because we know how hard it is. We know we've been in the Championship now for God knows how long. Feels like an eternity. But again, I think that we will be pushing for playoffs, and then we will be contending, a couple of seasons after a couple of seasons. But again, we will get there. We've got to keep the faith. And I personally believe we will be, teetering on the edge of promotion within 5 years' time. And what do we expect? What do we all expect as North End fans going into the new season? Well, that is a question that everybody's thinking now. We've obviously no Championship football now. We've got a couple of one more Premier League game left. FA Cup finals been, and obviously the Champions League final, last game of obviously the football season as well to look forward to as football fans that we all are. But what do we expect for the Championship season going to 25-26? Now, if there's anything for the Peter Isdale interview with BBC Radio Lancashire to go off, I think all of our Preston North End fans should be booking our hotels near Wembley. Because in that interview, he did say that this team could be pushing for playoffs, and promotion. But again, with the right players, I think with the right players and bringing in the right amount of players, I think we can't be anything less than 5. We need 8 to 10 players in this season. I can't stress that enough. If Preston North End miraculously are watching or listening in to this podcast as well, anyone at the club or even the club chairman or Peter Isdale himself is listening, I can't stress the importance of player recruitment for this season coming. We need to get the right players in. But with the right players in, who knows what can happen? Maybe we make some fantastic signings, and I know there's some fantastic players coming, leaving clubs in the summer on the free. But again, it's all about the wages and all about the money, isn't it? And again, we're going to struggle with obviously that as well compared to other clubs and other clubs' budgets. It all goes back to the money and how much Preston North End have got to spend on wages, which isn't an awful lot, because we all know we like to live, on the breadline. At Preston North End. But we're going to see what Paul Heckingbottom does with his team that he gets in. Obviously, we can say, is it too early to say trust the process in Paul Heckingbottom and what we need to do? And what we need to do is we need to have a decent pre-season, which is a given, wherever that pre-season tour may be, and the games at home. We need to go out and prove ourselves against big clubs, I think, as well. Get the players playing as they would in the season. It's okay well playing. I know that the season before we played Southport and obviously our usual game against Bamber Bridge, but we played Everton as well. I think Everton was a good test, and Florentina as well. I think I'd like to expect more of those games. Get the players in early, get our transfers done early, and then get a decent pre-season, get some decent teams in. Because we need to go out and show what this team can do early and then work on it early enough and then iron out things before we start obviously going into the first game of the season, whether that be home or away. Obviously, we're all hoping for a home game, aren't we? That's all that we want. We want to iron out everything within, because it is going to be a new look team. I can't stress enough how it's going to be a new look Preston North End going into the next season. There's players that are first team players that have gone now that we'll never see again. And we need to look forward now to this new Preston North End. And it's quite exciting, but at the same time quite scary because we don't know what we're going to expect. And I feel like now, we're going to be looking now at, a summer where we're looking at players who we're going to bring in, exciting times as well. But again, we're going to be questioning every single decision that the club's making regarding transfers, aren't we? Because we're all like that, But again, there's been a lot of silence on the old transfer front at the moment. I know that we said that in the interview, we said we're going to get 2 signings last week. Obviously, we've got one, and we're still waiting for the other one, which was a bit disappointing because I think every Preston North End fan is still waiting for the news of a new signing. But yeah, obviously, we can say trust the process with Paul Heckingbottom. I know that a lot of fans were saying that, Paul Heckingbottom's had pretty much a full season bar that obviously about 4 or 5 games, and look what position that we're in. We can argue that, yes, and I do understand where people are coming from on that. But again, let's just give him the players that he wants. Let's give him the budget that he wants, obviously the players to bring in. And let's see what he does with his Preston team. And I know a lot of Preston fans will say, but he's got players. He's obviously had time in training to implement his style of play. And I do and I agree with you. And we nearly got relegated. I do, and it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? We nearly got relegated, but we've got to give him game time again. Let's give him his own players. There's two sides to it, isn't there? There's two sides to the sword. But let's just look forward. Let's be positive for once as Preston North End supporters. Let's ditch the negativity. Let's put last season behind us, but also keeping it a tiny little bit in our memory that we can't let that season happen again, because we can't as Preston North End fans. We can't let that happen. Now, let's look forward to next season. Let's get our transfers done early. And I just hope that we get the right players in. That's what I'm hoping for. And I'm hoping for a lot better season than last season. I think all of us are hoping for, a better season than what one we've just seen, because it was awful, wasn't it? I'd never want to witness a more toxic environment than that. I don't want to be in that position again next season. So let's all remain positive. And again, look forward to, obviously, the season coming, and also another podcast. I'll try and do one of these every week. I'm hoping to anyway. So thank you very much for taking your time, for obviously listening, and obviously if you're watching as well, thank you very much for watching. And all I'm asking you to do is obviously to share this about, like it, give it a share, give me a follow as well on all the socials, The Real North Ender. But yeah, thank you very much for watching the very first The Real North Ender podcast, and I hope to hear from you again soon. Thank you very much.